This is the GameSir G7 Pro. It's PC Gamer's editor's pick, so it's an award-winning controller, but is it good for fighting games? Let's find out. So it comes in this nice box right here. It'll work for the Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Windows, and Android. In terms of connections, you can connect it via Bluetooth. Got a pretty long cable here as well. You can also connect it via the dongle, which tucks in nicely in here. Speaking of which, it comes with this nice charging stand. There you go. And here's the controller itself. Get 2 extra shoulder buttons and 2 back buttons on the back here. These are pretty clicky and tactile. And if you don't like to use these, you can also lock them as well. Look at that. There are 3 Dpads you can choose from. Just lift up the faceplate here. Oh, look at this. Look how cool this is. You can see the internal components. Then you take this guy out. Here are the switches. And let's say I want to replace it with this. Just pop it in, put the plate back on. In terms of build quality, this controller is just rock solid. No flexing at all. And it's pretty hefty too. There's a little weight to it. First, let's talk about comfort and ergonomics. In my hands, they're not huge, but they're big hands. They're adult hands. And this controller is on the smaller size for my hands. If you have smaller hands, maybe this is perfect for you. But for me, it's a little uncomfortable to use. On top of it being small, the handles are pretty vertical. They're not as angled out as something like this. You see how the angle curves inward pretty steeply as you get to the end of the handle? Whereas with this guy, it just kind of continues to angle out. And you don't see any bend of the wrist here. This is a lot more comfortable for me to use. Whereas with this guy, you can see the bend right there, right? Because of the size and shape of the controller, I end up having to use the controller like this, where I just use the top of my palm and have the handles rest on it. And my left hand is open up like this the whole entire time. It's pretty awkward for me to use at first, but over time, I did get used to it. Let's begin with the sticks. These are TMR sticks. The tension on here is pretty soft, like most Xbox controllers. There is a ring here, so rotating it is pretty smooth. Triggers and shoulder buttons are Xbox style. The tension on here are pretty nice. I would say they're not too soft and they're not too stiff either. And of course, you can also lock them. You do get 2 extra shoulder buttons up here, and these are really helpful in games like Tekken. This helps me do the wave dash really quickly and easily. So I just programmed this to forward and this guy to backwards. So now all I gotta do is press this and quarter circle forward to dash. Look at that. The switches on all of these buttons are micro switches. The switches on the face buttons and the D-pad are a little heavier and more tactile than on most controllers that use these kind of switches. They're spaced out nicely. You can press both of them at the same time pretty easily. Now the issue is this. The cutout on the faceplate is too tight on these face buttons. So whenever you press it, you're gonna hear a creak. I mean, is it a big deal? Probably not, but it's just annoying, you know what I mean? For such a high quality controller, if you are annoyed by that, you can just take this guy off and then play like this. There we go. The creaking goes away. Alright, let's talk about the D-pads. So let's begin with this hybrid one. Normally this is how it works, right? When you have a plate, the D-pad becomes very loose, and when you have a cross D-pad, then it's very tight. And the hybrid D-pad is something in between. However, underneath here, the switches themselves unfortunately are a little bit on the looser side. You can see here it kind of wiggles and kind of slides around. Because of that, cardinal directions aren't the most accurate on this controller. As you can see there, I just dropped my combo, and the reason why I just dropped my combo is because when I pressed down, I pressed it at a slightly off angle, and that triggered an unwanted diagonal. Furthermore, the D-pads themselves are really small, so check out my thumb. It covers the entire D-pad. On the bigger D-pad here, if I'm slightly off, there's more room to work with. The angles are bigger. But on a smaller D-pad like this, the margin of error is just tighter. Okay, think of it this way. If this D-pad is bigger, so when you press here, it'll be down, but then slightly off, it'll still be down because the angles are wider. But as you get tighter and closer to the center, the angle of the cardinal directions becomes smaller and tighter and tighter and tighter, so the margin of error becomes really tight. And this D-pad is pretty small, so if you're slightly off, then it's going to trigger a diagonal. I tried to replace this guy with a cross-shaped D-pad, and it helps a little bit, but still, you still get the accidental diagonals here. And surprisingly, when I switched to this plate D-pad, you would think that this thing would be terrible for cardinal directions, but surprisingly it works really well. It's a lot more accurate than on this hybrid D-pad, and that's because of these little nubs right here. When I feel it and I press it, it's pretty accurate, and that goes for all 4 directions. So yeah, if you're playing a 3D fighter like DOA 6 here and you have to have more accurate cardinal directions, then I recommend using this plate here or the cross-shaped D-pad. Let's do a quick pivot test. Yep, there's a pivot in the middle, which is good. As far as the D-pad itself, these are pretty responsive. Double taps, not a problem. Typically when you have a plate D-pad and if it's looser, then motion inputs is going to be great on it. Now I'm not sure if this is a Street Fighter thing or if it's this controller, but I have trouble pressing the face button and the shoulder button at the same time. It just doesn't come out for me. You see the shoulder button here always comes out first. If I use it like this, not a problem at all. I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure if they use different switches for the shoulder button here and the face buttons. With the face buttons and the triggers together, the trick is just to press the triggers really hard and fast. Cardinal directions may not be 100% accurate on this D-pad, but motion inputs are just fantastic on here, especially on this plate D-pad here. .720s are so easy on here as well. Check that out. Normally it's pretty tough to do 720s on the D-pad. I would have to use the stick for that, but on this D-pad, it's a piece of cake. Let's test out the electric wind gun first. There we go, pretty easy to do. I don't play Tekken usually, but as you can see, I can perform it pretty easily. As far as the D-pad, if you're playing something like Street Fighter 6 or games that has a lot of motion inputs, I would just use this plate here. I wouldn't even bother with these. And the reason being is, if you use this cross-shaped D-pad, your thumb is going to get stuck in between the edges here. And this hybrid D-pad is better, but it's just not as accurate. To adjust the controller, you can download this GameSir Nexus app on the Windows Store. And check this out, everything's laid out on one page. I kind of like that a lot. You can adjust the settings anywhere from vibrations to the triggers to the polling rate here and the sticks. You also have motion controls here, and you can also map the buttons as well. Let's say I want to change this to up. Bam, there we go. Oh, check this out. you can map the extra buttons to one of the keyboard keys. This is going to be super useful if you use it on the PC. Here you can also upgrade your firmware. Dpad diagonal lock just means it's going to disable diagonals. Here you go, and then now when I press a diagonal, it's not going to work. This option is probably for old school games. Let's check out the latency test on Dpad. With wired on Windows 11, for the buttons it's 2.21 milliseconds, which is pretty good. For the sticks it's 2.84 milliseconds, and the polling rate is essentially 1000 Hz. Jitter is pretty good as well, under 1 millisecond. For the dongle it's a little slower. Average latency for the buttons 5.41 milliseconds, for the sticks about 14, and the polling rate is still hovering just right below 1000 Hz. For Bluetooth, button latency is pretty similar to the dongle. And check this out, this is interesting. The stick latency is better than on the dongle, even though the polling rate is halved or less than half of the dongle. I wonder why that is. But jitter is just really bad on Bluetooth here. And that makes sense because everything around the house uses Bluetooth, right? So you're gonna have a lot of interference. Alright, final thoughts. This controller is probably good for somebody with smaller hands, and if you're playing mostly 2D fighters, then you're gonna love this controller. However, for me, I have bigger hands, so this is a little uncomfortable for me, and I play a lot of 3D fighters that require accurate cardinal directions, and the D-pad here, even though it's good, but it's just a little too small, and I can't count on this D-pad being 100% accurate with cardinal directions. When you're in a high level match, all it takes is just one drop combo and you're done. But as a whole package, I can see why this is a great controller. All they gotta do now is just make this controller a little bit bigger, maybe not make this handle curving too much here at the bottom, and just tighten the D-pad up a little bit. Oh, and of course, fix the faceplate so it won't be squeaky. And they're gonna have on their hands an awesome controller. Alright, hopefully you found the video to be helpful. If you did, give it a like, subscribe for more, and take care now.